السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على حي على الفلاح. حي على الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمد عبده ورسوله يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. All praises are due to Allah. We glorify Him and we worship Him. And we bear witness that there is no God but Allah, singular, no partners for Him. And we bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is His servant and His messenger. O Allah, give your salutations and your blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and upon the Sahaba and those that rightly followed his sunnah until the day of judgment. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. In the Quran, the name Fir'aun is mentioned approximately 67 times. 67 times the name Fir'aun is mentioned. In comparison, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is mentioned by name maybe 3 or 4 times. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done this for a hikmah, for a wisdom. That He mentions the story of Fir'aun over and over and over again in the Quran so that we can learn from his mistakes. Fir'aun represents the worst of humanity. Humanity gone wrong. He did everything wrong. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immortalizes his mistakes so that we do not follow in the same footsteps he did. However, though we can get a lot of wisdom from the story of Fir'aun, it's safe to say that alhamdulillah, for the most part, most of us will never reach the level he reached. Most of us don't lead an empire or a country. We don't command armies. We've never tortured anybody. We've never committed genocide or massacres. We've never claimed to be God. We've never enslaved an entire race. So while it's true that we can derive wisdoms from Fir'aun, he is at the end of the day the worst of humanity, and may Allah protect us, most of us will never reach that level. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Musa to Fir'aun, but Allah did not send Musa just to Fir'aun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran many other people. And just like many other prophets, including the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, Musa alayhi salam had many enemies. AlAmaan, As-Samiri, Bal'am ibn Ba'ura, many people faced against Musa, and Fir'aun was the worst of them. However, there is another person, another individual mentioned in the Quran that also committed evil acts, and in my humble opinion, even though he's not as infamous as Fir'aun, and not mentioned as many times as Fir'aun, his mentality and his ideology is more dangerous to the common person like me and you. Because it's easy for us to fall into his mistakes, not the mistakes of Fir'aun, because like I said, for the most part, most of us do not command an empire for us to have that opportunity to commit that injustice. And that person that I am speaking of course, the dishonorable mention goes to none other than Qarun. Not to be confused with Harun. Harun, the brother of Musa, is a prophet alayhi salam. Qarun, however, mentioned in the Quran a few times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا وَسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ وَهَامَانَ وَقَارُونَ فَقَالُوا سَاحِرٌ كَذَّابٌ. Allah mentions him by name. That Musa was sent to this man just like he was sent to Fir'aun. And Qarun rejected Musa alayhi salam. In this khutbah, inshaAllah, we will be speaking about Qarun, the story of Qarun in the Quran, the wisdom behind the story, And what can we derive from his story? بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the story of Qarun in Surah Al-Qasas. إن قارون كان من قوم موسى فبغى عليهم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts off immediately that Qarun was from the people of Musa. He was not an outsider. He wasn't an Egyptian like Fir'aun was. He was from Bani Israel, from the same people, from the same race. Meaning he was from the people that were oppressed with Musa. He was with the people when they saw the miracles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted Musa. Qarun was there when the staff turned into a snake. Qarun was there when the frogs came and the Nile flooded and when the sea was split. Qarun was there. He saw all of these miracles with his own eyes and he was with Bani Israel. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues, فَبَغَى عَلَيْهِمْ. He was from the people of Musa, but he betrayed them or he transgressed against them. So even though Qarun saw the miracles that me and you would wish to see, Qarun threw that all away. Why? We're going to see why in a bit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues in the Quran. He says, وَآتَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْكُنُوزِ مَا إِنَّ مَفَاتِحَهُ لَتَنُوءُ بِالْعُصْبَةِ أُولِي الْقُوَّةِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that He blessed Qarun and He granted Qarun so much treasure and so much wealth that the keys to the treasure chests that he had were so big and so many that a group of strong, burly men would get exhausted from carrying the keys. And look at the, mashallah, subhanallah, like you see how beautiful the imagery is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have said he had a mountain of gold. He says the keys to his treasure would exhaust a group of strong men. So we can infer how rich Qarun was. إِذْ قَالَ لَهُ قَوْمُهُ لَا تَفْرَحْ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues, his people told Qarun, لَا تَفْرَحْ, do not be prideful or arrogant. And we can derive from this, and we know from narrations, that Qarun was the richest person of Bani Israel. Probably after Fir'aun was destroyed, he was probably the richest man in the world at the time. A huge blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Qarun let that go to his head and started becoming arrogant and prideful. And his people started to advise him, لا تفرح إن الله لا يحب الفرحين. Do not be arrogant about what you have. Allah doesn't like people who are arrogant. وَابْتَغِ فِيمَا آتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ. And use a little bit of what Allah gave you and invest it in the next life. Right? This is a wisdom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught the Muslims, that the afterlife is much better than this life. And it is wise to invest in the next life. And those that hoard their gold and silver, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, الَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَهَا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. That those that hoard their gold and silver and they don't spend in the name of Allah, they don't pay their zakah, they don't pay any sadaqah, they don't help the people that come to them, فَبَشِّرْهُمْ بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. That this gold and this silver will be a punishment for them. And the people of Bani Israel saw this in Qarun. That his first mistake, number one, was that he was letting this money get to his head. Number two, he wasn't spending it in the name of Allah. He wasn't paying his zakah. He wasn't helping out Bani Israel, who at that time needed a lot of help. And they advised him, they said, وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيا. Spend a little bit in the afterlife, and there's no problem leaving some of it for yourself here. Take care of yourself in this life. Have a house. Have food. Spend on your family. This is allowed for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's wajib that you need to spend on yourself. وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ وَلَا تَبْغِ الْفَسَادَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And show excellence, be kind, just like Allah was excellent to you, be excellent to other people. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us something, especially something material like money, it's a test from Allah. I am giving you this money, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to be selfish with it and keep it for yourself, or are you going to be good to yourself and be kind to the people around you and be generous and use it in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So already from the very beginning, Qarun is making several mistakes. But the Quran continues. قَالَ إِنَّمَا أُوتِيتُهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ عِنْدِي. This is the fatal blow. This is the big mistake. When Qarun heard the advice of his brothers, he didn't accept the nasiha, he didn't accept the advice like a Muslim should. He said, إِنَّمَا أُوتِيتُهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ عِنْدِي. I earned this money because of my cleverness, because of how smart I am. And this is the mistake, why I mentioned that Qarun's mentality is more dangerous to us, because so many of us fall in this mistake. I got this money because I'm street smart and I'm clever and I have experience and I worked hard and I did this and I had connections and I did that. And these things might be important. Working hard, definitely. It's the sunnah of Allah. If you work hard, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you. But it's not because you worked hard that you got these things. When you earn something, you earn it because Allah gave it to you. فَقَطْ لَا غَيْرٍ. There's no other reason than that. If Allah deems you worthy of this thing, He'll give it to you. But Qarun's mentality was, I earned this. Why should I be excellent back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I was the one that got this money. You know, we hear a lot of these stories nowadays. We hear, and this is not like criticizing any individual person, but a lot of times we hear these success stories, as we call them. When I first came to America, I had $15 in my pocket, and I delivered pizzas, and I worked my way up, and I bought my own company, and now I'm a self-made man. And it's a very arrogant thing to say that I'm a self-made man. I did this for myself. All you have to do is add a little alhamdulillah at the end. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did this for me. I worked hard, my life was difficult, and Allah helped me along the way. But a lot of times we don't hear this. Especially when they're interviewing these huge companies, you know, the owners of these huge Fortune 500 companies, they say, I was doing this, and I was doing that, and I did this, and then they write this book about how much of a hero they were when they went through all their struggles, and they don't attribute any of the credit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this was Qarun's fatal mistake. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَوَلَمْ يَعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ أَهْلَكَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ مِنَ الْقُرُونِ. Doesn't Qarun know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, doesn't Qarun know that Allah has destroyed people before him who were smarter than him, richer than him, and stronger than him? So who does he think he is? Right? Who does he think he is, that he did this for himself? Allah destroyed people before you that were way stronger and way richer than you. And the Quran continues. His final mistake. فَخَرَجَ عَلَى قَوْمِهِ فِي زِينَتِهِ. And then he went into public, displaying and flaunting everything he had. His best clothes, you know, his jewels, slaves were holding the fan over his head, his best horse. You know, use your imagination. And you can translate it to our modern times. A lot of times we do things, and especially in the social media age, we do things for no other reason than to show off. Every vacation we take, we have to post all the pictures. New ride, we have to put it. Young people, I'm talking to the young people right now. I've seen your Instagram posts and I've seen your Snap stories. Tell me, why do you have to post about your new Jordans or your new Yeezys or your new Ship or whatever you put on your foot? You have to show everybody that you have this. Why? I don't care if you have an Apple Watch or if you have AirPods. Good for you. Are you trying to prove that mom and baba love you more than the other kids? Tell me, what's the wisdom behind it? It's when we really sit down and we think about it, a lot of times there's no other reason than I'm showing off. And don't get me wrong, even the Quran explicitly mentions there's nothing wrong with having nice things. The Rasul ﷺ was sitting with his companions and he said, لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. He said, nobody will enter Jannah who has an atom of pride in his heart. So when he said this, the companions got a little scared, and one of them said, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of Allah, people like to have good clothes and good shoes. Like, is that prideful? And the Rasul said, Inna Allah jameel yuhibbu jamal. Allah is beautiful and He likes things to be beautiful. That's not what pride is. Pride is not having good things or dressing nicely or having a nice car. That's not what pride is. And the Rasul defines what pride is. He said, بَطْلُ الْحَقِّ وَغَمْطِ النَّاسِ. Pride is rejecting the truth and belittling people. So when the truth came to Qarun and his people advised him that maybe you should be spending your money in a better way for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he rejected it. No, you guys are just jealous. I did this, you couldn't do it. وَغَمْضِ النَّاسِ, belittling people. People that think that they're better than other people because of the things that Allah gave them. In our days and in every age and every nation, we have superficial ways of ranking each other. Back home, it's what family does he come from? Does he live in this city or that city? What school did he go to? What degree does he have? Where does he work? You might not know the person at all. I can mention 1 or 2, 3 things about him. He has this degree, he lives in this city, suddenly, and immediately we have a sense that he's beneath us. Am I making this up? It's very true. This is what pride is. And these things had nothing to do with us. We didn't choose to be born in this city or that city. We didn't choose to be born in a wealthy family. Right? We always find superficial ways to rank each other when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear to us, إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ, that the best of you is the one that is most pious to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, most righteous, and that's something that's in our hearts. We can't see that anyway. So there's no reason to think that you're better than other people. Again, young people. A lot of times, young people, college kids, high schoolers, even middle schoolers, they'll judge another person simply because of what brand he's wearing. I only speak to people that have iPhone 8 and up. I'm sorry. It doesn't get that extreme, but this is sometimes the mentality we have. The Quran continues. قال الذين يريدون الحياة الدنيا يا ليت لنا مثل ما أوتي قارون إنه لذو حظ عظيم. When Qarun went out and flaunting everything he had, some people of Bani Israel saw what he had and they said, man, I wish I had what Qarun had. He's so lucky. Immediately some of the people in the city said, وَيْلَكُمْ ثَوَابُ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ لِمَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا. Hold on one second. You're jealous of this person who thinks he's better than you. You want to be like him because he has money? And this, subhanAllah, this one ayah, it could have been removed from the Quran. It's not necessary to the story. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have skipped over to the next ayah. But Allah puts everything for wisdom. That the mistake is not just Qarun. The mistake is the people that looked at Qarun and were envious of him. إِنَّهُ لَذُو حَظٍ عَظِيمٍ. He's so lucky. And a lot of times we see there are good people who have good akhlaq, good deen, good character, and we're like, yeah, that's good for them. But the moment we see somebody who's successful and he drives this car or that car, or he lives in this house or this town, man, I wish I was him. Even if he treats everyone like trash. Again, to the young people, this khutbah is mainly to the young people. I see the way you guys look at certain YouTubers, and you're like, oh man, I wish I was like YouTuber X and YouTuber Y. He's so lucky, look how much money he makes, look how many subscribers he has. And that same person, you guys know the people I'm talking about, that same person treats everybody like trash. And he's foul-mouthed, and he's rude, and he's disgusting, and he's immoral, and he's frankly not very smart either, and yet I want to be like him. And you get his t-shirt and you get his haircut. Why? Why do you want to be like him? Are you going to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, I deserve Jannah because I have this many subscribers, or I have this many likes on Instagram? Or when you get older, I make this much salary? Haba'an manthura. It's not going to mean anything. And this is what the people said to the people that were envious of Qarun. ثَوَابُ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ لِمَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا. The reward of Allah is better than everything Qarun has. Because at the end of the day, Qarun was a very shallow person. All he cared about was the money. And all he cared about was the fame. So much so to a point that it went to his head to a point that the only person that was higher than Qarun was none other than the Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Musa was not rich, but Musa was the Prophet of Allah. And he was the leader. And it started getting to Qarun's head. Why did Allah choose Musa? I have way more money than him. I could buy him. Why do people pay attention to him? I should be leader. It started getting to his head. So much so to a point, and these are in some narrations, it is mentioned that Qarun became so envious of Musa alayhi salam that he did something so despicable. He went to a prostitute of Bani Israel and promised her a lot of money and said, all I need you to do is publicly accuse Musa of having an affair with you. So that people will, so I'll ruin. Can we have everybody move to the front, please? There's not a lot of room over there. تفسحوا في المجالس. So Qarun promised her money in exchange to publicly accuse Musa of having an affair with her, just so he can tarnish his reputation. That's how sad and shallow he was. And فعلا, the narrations mention that Musa was giving a halaqah to Bani Israel, and this woman starts screaming out that Musa had inappropriate relationships with her. Immediately Musa goes down to the ground and raises his hands to Allah. He says, Ya Allah, you know that this is not true. Show the truth. And I ask, he turns to the woman, he says, I ask you by the Allah that saved us from Fir'aun and split the sea in front of you to tell the truth. When this was said to her, she could not lie anymore. She said, Qarun was the one that made me do this, and he promised me a lot of money. The Quran continues and says, فَخَسَفْنَا بِهِ وَبِدَارِهِ الْأَرْضِ. Allah granted Musa the power of the earth. He said, the earth is yours to command. Do with it as you please. Musa said, swallow Qarun. And the earth that Qarun was standing on opened up, and he fell in, and it swallowed him up. Immediately, the person that thought he was all that and thought that he was better than other people, gone in the blink of an eye. But what's dangerous is not Qarun, was his ideology and his mentality. That he made it that the most important thing in the world is materialistic wealth. Money is the most important thing. So much so that when Qarun was defeated, can you believe it? The people of Bani Israel started whispering to each other. And they said, Musa only destroyed Qarun so he could have his house. So Musa raises his hands again. He said, Ya Allah, take his house too. فَخَسَفْنَا بِهِ وَبِدَارِهِ الْأَرْضِ. All of his gold, all of his money, his most beautiful palace, into the earth. So that Musa could show the people, I don't care about Qarun or his gold or his house. These things do not matter to me. And they should not matter to us to a point where they're the most important thing in the world. Again, it is not haram to be rich. It is not haram to have good clothes. It is not haram to be successful. But very simple steps can make the difference between haram and halal. When you work hard and attribute all the thanks and gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will increase you in your blessings. لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you're thankful, I'll increase it for you. That's number one. Number two, do not let it get to your heart and become arrogant. You are not better than other people because of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to you. Wallahi, we're living in a country with so many blessings, and there are so many people in the world that will wish they were in our place. That has nothing to do with us. We are not better than people in that country or that country because they're going through a tough time. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, He could have put us through the same test. May Allah protect us. And immediately in the Quran, the people noticed that. وَأَصْبَحَ الَّذِينَ تَمَنَّوْا مَكَانَهُ بِالْأَمْسِ. The people that just yesterday were saying, oh my God, he's so lucky, I wish I was him. Immediately they do a 180, and they do a 360, or whatever it is. They just turn around and they say, وَيْكَأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ. They say, oh my God, it's almost as if Allah is the one that gives all money, and He takes it away. لَوْلَا أَنْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا لَخَسَفَ بِنَا. If it wasn't for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He could have swallowed us into the earth as well. Qarun made that mistake. We also made that mistake. Only Qarun was punished. Allah was merciful to us. We could have been in that situation. The earth could have swallowed us as well. وَيْكَأَنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الْكَافِرُونَ. And then Allah concludes this whole story. تِلْكَ الدَّارُ الْآخِرَةُ نَجْعَلُهَا لِلَّذِينَ لَا يُرِيدُونَ عُلُوًّا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا فَسَادًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is the reward, the Jannah. That hereafter, that afterlife is a reward. We give it to those who do not want to make themselves higher than other people and do not want to corrupt in the world. You can be a sheikh, you can, memorize the Quran. You can pray your five. You can do all the beautiful acts of worship, and you should. But the moment you start thinking that you're better than other people for things that Allah gave you, and by the way, your Islam is one of those things. Even you thinking that you're better than other people because you're quote quote more religious than other people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take away your Islam just like that. He can put one sentence in your heart, one doubt, and suddenly you're not even praying anymore. So who are we to think we're better than people? Whether it's for whatever reason. Again, every age, Wallahi, 10 years ago I was 13 years old. To the young people who are 13 right now. 10 years ago I was 13. And if you had an Ed Hardy jacket, you were considered cool or rich. Anyone know what that is anymore? Who cares what that is? If you had a BlackBerry phone, you were the coolest kid ever. Where's BlackBerry? It's the worst phone now. I think the company's bankrupt. I don't even know what they're doing. These things, they come, they go. They don't mean anything. But the reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you, your good deeds, your character, being a good person, being kind to your brothers and sisters, that doesn't go away. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards you for that on the Day of Judgment. And one final reminder, yes, Qarun, he was swallowed into the ground because of his evil acts. But whether we like it or not, we're also going to go into the ground. We're all going to be buried 6 feet under. We know where the graveyard is. We go there every time for a janazah. Just last week, they had a janazah here in this masjid, and when they came to bring the body, the brother came holding a box the size of a shoe, a baby. Doesn't wait for any of us. And everything we have, our money, our wealth, our position, that can either be our ticket to Jannah, or it can be our ticket to Nar. Because you can be 100% sure that after we're gone, nobody's going to cry over you, forever. أين الملوك ذو التيجان من يمن وأين منهم أكاليل وتيجان وأين ما شاده شداد في إرم وأين عاد وشداد وقحطان وأين ما حازه قارون من ذهب وأين ما ساسه في الفرس ساسان كأن القوم ما كانوا. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يا عباد الله. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. Brothers and sisters, every archetype of person, you will always have different examples of them. You will have examples of very good leaders in the world, and you have examples of very bad leaders. You have examples of amazing women throughout history, and you have examples of evil women. Just like this, we have examples in the Quran, of people who were very rich, who went to Jannah, and people who were very rich that went to hellfire. The point of this khutbah is to show that what you have in your bank account does not determine whether you're a good or bad person. That's all it is. It's just money in the bank account. You can choose what you want to use that for. And your attitude will change everything. Your attitude when you're speaking to people. I will never forget, when I was very young, maybe 13, 14 years old, all of Ramadan, I prayed next to this man in the masjid, and he would sit and talk to me and shake my hand, and he would talk, and he would treat me like an equal. I didn't know who he was. It wasn't until after Ramadan I realized that he owned like 3 companies, and he was a doctor, and his house was, mashallah. And I was just so appalled because I was shocked that this man is more successful and older and richer than me, and I never felt even a little bit that he felt that he was better than me. If anything, he kind of treated me like I was better than him. And this is the attitude of a Muslim. So not to make it too long, but there are certain attitudes that a Muslim should have. And number 1 on the list is being thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A good practice is in the morning or at night or at a certain point of the day, say alhamdulillah for specific things. We say alhamdulillah generally all the time, but it's a good practice to say alhamdulillah for my health when we see somebody who's sick. Alhamdulillah for my car when we see somebody that can't go anywhere. Alhamdulillah for the safety when we watch the news and we say Alhamdulillah for these things. Because that might be the difference between Allah keeping them for you and blessing you with them and taking them away. A few announcements, actually, just one. Last week we had the soup kitchen here in the Masjid. It was very successful and the youth had a good time and we made a lot of packages. A lot of parents were asking when the next one is. We get them as the funding comes. It doesn't cost a lot to make them, and I know there are a lot of teenagers looking for volunteer hours. I believe there's this table outside that's collecting for anyone who wants to sponsor this act here in the Masjid. It's a great act. You get the hasanat inshallah, and this is one of the examples of a way to وَبَتَغِي فِي مَا أَتَاكَ اللَّهُ دَارَ الْآخِرَةِ. Make your intention that you're spending this money for the next life, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah will bless whatever you can give, even if it's a small amount. Other than that, I don't know of any other announcements. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to benefit us with what was said today. Anything correct that I said today is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything incorrect is from my own mistakes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from being arrogant. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from being like Qarun and following in his mentality and his footsteps. May Allah protect us from ever being like people like Fir'aun or Qarun or Haman. Ya Allah, bless us in our health, bless us in our wealth, and bless us in our children. Ya Allah, guide us. Nobody can guide us except you. And nobody can guide our children except you. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. اللهم من أراد بالإسلام والمسلمين خيرا فوفقه إلى كل خير ومن أراد بالإسلام والمسلمين شرا فخذه أخذ عزيز مقتدر. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وقوموا إلى صلاتكم.
الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Try to keep foot to foot, shoulder to shoulder so that there's room for everybody, and switch off your mobile phones. Allahu Akbar. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب ما أغنى عنه ماله وما كسب سيصلى نارا ذات لهب وامرأته حمالة الحطب في جيدها حبل من مسد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
أن الأخت صفاء نابا مريضة بالعناية المركزة وتحتاج إلى الدعاء. صفاء نابا مريضة بالعناية المركزة وتحتاج إلى الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يعليها للعافية. اللهم عليها للعافية. اللهم امسح عنها باليمين الشافية الكافية. اللهم داويها بدوائك. اللهم اشفيها بشفائك. اللهم عافيها من ابتلائك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم رب الناس أذهب البأس واشفيها وأنت الشافي لا شفاء إلا شفاؤك شفاء لا يغادر سقما. اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين وارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين واغفر لنا برحمتك أجمعين يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على آله وصحبه أجمعين.
I have a child, 28 years old. He got involved with heroin. He started with the marijuana. He's from this town. I passed through 6 years like a hell. So, I'm a father. I come this Masjid before this build. Used to bring my child here. That's the house I used to come. So, there is a police officer gentleman, such a nice gentleman. He helped me out when Homeland Security was here. And the chief of police officer was here. I'm telling you, take my advice. Give attention for these beautiful children. Don't let go. Every day, They don't mention it in the news. Every day one child or two child died in Mahmud County or Middletown. I can't save my child's life. So, his heart stopped 3 times. 2 of them 911 breathed in his life. One time my son gave him life, back to life, and he can't get out from heroin. I want to tell you one big advice. Don't listen to these beautiful children. I have a party. That party is a bullshit. Every weekend, no party. They invited the weak that can be big. So please, watch your children, because I'm going to lose my child very soon. So, I'm not here to tell you, make you feel bad. I'm here to tell you, watch these beautiful children like a hawk, because I'm going to lose them. So, thank you for your time. I am in this disabled. No smoking, no drugs, no heroin, no gambling. I'm a very successful man, but end up disabled because of the mental aspect.